We're in a game of League, and I'm about to show you how to win your games as EZREAL. What is up, guys? My name is MipZ, and welcome back for yet another League of Legends video. So today we are playing none other than EZREAL. And EZREAL is honestly an amazing champion, especially due to the fact that he's one of those champs that you never stop learning. He has basically this unlimited potential in terms of like his skill level, what you can do with him, your creative plays. Like, this is one of those champs where a really good player can literally like 1v3 or 1v, I want to say 1v5, but he can literally like outplay his enemies. With that said, you're not picking this champion for specifically doing like dueling against one champion or doing 1v3s or 1v5s or whatever. You're picking this champion because he's really good in team fights, he's really fun to play, and he's really versatile, and he has such a safe tool because of his E, which is basically his jump. Anyway, what I am going to be doing in this video is that I'm going to be teaching you guys how to play EZREAL in the early, mid, and late game, and the general strategy on him. Also, I'll probably include some tips in terms of how to use the abilities best in these different phases of the game. So yeah, I hope you guys are very much going to enjoy this one and can apply some of this knowledge to your own games. And if you do enjoy this video or find it helpful, make sure to hit that like button. I really would appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe down below if you're new in here and join into our awesome community. And lastly, if you want to hang out with me live, go to twitch.tv/MipZ_live. Anyways, we'll just kind of jump into this one. What we want to be doing here in the early game is we want to see if we can get the level 2 power spike. So fortunately, this guy didn't exploit that. I was just explaining something, so I might still be able to pull this off. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do. So right here, I'm going to try to just get these front minions down as quickly as I can. So we get the level 2 power spike, and from there on, I want to go basically almost all in because we are going to have that level advantage. So right there, we're going to get it. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm actually going to go on Seraphine here because she is the easier target for me to deal with. I'm going to get the first blood because they didn't respect this level 2 power spike. I'm not going to be flashing under turret. I probably could flash under and go for like an overly aggressive play. And I might be able to get Vayne down, but it's also most likely because we're only level 2. I'm going to be taking 2 turret shots, and from that I will basically die. And what we already did here is we got first blood, which is great. And also we put Vayne in a situation where either she has to back, or she has to sit very safely on their turret and sit in a really bad scenario. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to shove this, and then we're going to be looking for a level 3 back, which is going to be amazing. As I'm doing this, I'm actually going to put in a little bit of poke here. All right, we're going to back out. I honestly don't want to stay in the lane right now. Her getting caught there doesn't matter. They're not high enough level. If they chase after, I will be able to support that. So we're going to back out. We're going to get ourselves, because we had such a good start, I want to straight away buy ourselves a Sheen. So this is going to really help our damage enormously. And I'm also taking a pair of boots, meaning that it's going to be easier for us to chase them down and dodge their Seraphine's abilities. All right, so let's generally talk about how to play EZREAL in the early game. So early game EZREAL is kind of, he's not bad, but he's not insanely good either. He's like kind of this, he's mediocre. Some things he'll do good against, some things he'll struggle against. Things that kind of counters EZREAL in the laning phase is things like Lucian, Draven, Tristana, or Severe. Like, these champions are generally things that are difficult to deal with on EZREAL because of their potential to, first of all, shove the lane very easily, and secondly, their trading potential is so good. So this is something you want to keep in mind when playing. Oh, gotta be a little careful here. So this is something you really do want to keep in mind. So picking it into these champs is something, I'm not saying that you cannot play against it, but be mindful that it won't be easy. Okay, so she's going to take a little bit of damage. I'm just going to make sure I get an auto in for whatever they trade on her. We're going to pop her potion, and we'll go ahead and get some of this farm. All right, so for the early game, there's a couple of different strategies. I usually think of lanes with Ezreal as kind of 3 different types of lanes. There's the disadvantage, advantage, and basically the kind of could go either way. So that's the 3 types of lanes that I see. It should be noted that these 3 lanes is not like when you go into the game that it's preset that whatever you're playing against will be this type of lane throughout the whole game. It can go either way as the game progresses and as you get a lead or fall behind. Then it can go either way. All right, so that's a pretty free kill, to be honest. We'll take it. All right. So for the disadvantaged lane, you just want to be sitting under turret in those cases. This is the lanes that are difficult for you to deal with. And this is things like we talked about before, Lucian, Draven, these kind of things will most likely be putting you in these scenarios where they outpush you. You simply cannot follow, like you cannot push as much as they can because of the fact that you are mostly a single target champion. Like you can see here on the minions, like we can only hit 1 target at a time. That's basically how it is with Ezreal, and that's something we gotta keep in mind. All right, we'll go ahead and get this farm. We'll get a Q on her. Right here, we're gonna make sure that we just get some good poke in. I don't mind too much taking the turret shots here because I'm planning on backing anyway. So I'm all good with this. We're gonna back out. I'm just gonna tell this guy to not go for anything because it's super unnecessary. And at this point, we aren't really strong. So we're gonna go ahead. We'll back. We'll buy ourselves a tier, a long sword. And we'll actually get ourselves a control ward as well. There we go. All right. So for the lanes where you are playing in a disadvantage, what you want to be doing is that if they're shoving you under turret and you just want to sit there, farm using your Q as well. Don't try to harass them using your Q unless it means that you don't miss CS. If you can hit all of your CS without using your Q and without taking serious amounts of damage, then that's great. You can go ahead and you can do that. But otherwise, you don't want to be using your Q for poking them if you're sitting under your turret. You want to make sure you get your farm. Your farm is more important than getting a little bit of damage on the enemy. All right, second type of lane is when we have this kind of where we're sitting in the middle. This is what we've done most of the time here. And in these, what we want to do is we want to try and kind of like roam a little around our own minions. Try to look for an opening to hit or Qs onto their ADC or support. We can do this pretty easily most of the time by looking at which minions they're about to last hit, because they will have to position in a way where they can hit it. So pretty often their own minions will force them to basically go either on left or right side of the ranged minions. So we just need to get ready for it. So you can see every time they're somewhere, we'll try and find like a Q and just hit them. This is our objective if this is the kind of lane. We want to poke them down till maybe they're like half HP, or depending on how fed you are, to a point where we feel like we can all in them, or we can go for a more aggressive play. Because we are so far ahead as we are here, we can go for some more like greed plays like I did there, and use or E very offensively. We'll talk about the usage of this ability pretty soon, because it's something that's highly misused, to be honest. We'll talk more about that one in a moment. All right, so we'll go ahead. We'll push this under. And this leads us to the third and final type of lane. And this is basically when you shove them under turret. This is actually more or less the ideal thing for Ezreal, as long as you know where their jungler is. Right now, we know he's topside. We see him. So this means me pushing under turret is super good. While we're under turret, we have 2 objectives. One, we want to try and harass the enemy as much as we can using our Q, not our auto attacks, or Q. The reason why we don't want to be doing it with our auto attacks is because it's much better for us to hit the turret if armor platings are still up, because armor platings is equal free gold. That is secure gold. That's gold that once you get it to a certain HP, you get gold. If you cast your auto attacks onto the enemy champion, you're not necessarily getting gold out of it. They might back. Like, there are so many things that can change the outcome, but this is safe gold. You get it every time you get it to a certain number of HP. as long as it's pre 14 minutes. After 14 minutes, you can start reevaluating whether or not you want to push the turret or put more pressure on them by popping your autos there. But until platings are down, then you always prioritize auto attacks on turret, unless it means that you can actually kill. All right. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about how to actually fight and how to deal the most damage and how to play safely as well on Ezreal. So first of all, let's talk about your E. This is one of your main abilities. This is your jump. It's really good. For those of you who don't know, your jump actually deals really a good chunk of damage. It deals the damage to anything or to the closest enemy. This counts also as minions. So we got to be very careful with the usage of this one, because it's a lot of damage to hit a minion if we're trying to fight an enemy. So we want to be very careful about this. Right here, we're going to harass as much as we can. They're going to hit. I do have flash if need be, but I don't think it's going to be necessary. All right. So for our E, generally speaking, we want to be sitting and holding on to this one. First of all, because it's a really expensive spell in mana, especially pre-level 6. It's a really, like, you should not be using this ability unless you're going for an all-in, or unless you're using it to survive, because it's way too expensive in mana for you to use it for anything else. Like, you can literally cast 3 mythic shots almost for the same cost as 1 jump. So generally speaking, it's not worth for you. Oh, it's gonna be good. Whoop. Generally speaking, it is not worth for you to use your E before level 6. Unless you need it for the 2 scenarios we talked about earlier. Then you want to be holding on to it. Once you are in a scenario where you want to be thinking about using your E, then of course you can do so. Like, if you're, the thing is, your E, you just have to be very delicate with the use of it, because, whoop, probably won't be able to save this guy, but I will be able to. The thing is, I have to run away here because she will most likely kill us if we stay. All right, there we go. I see 6 coming down. We can probably help out a little bit. I'll stay at range. I'll just make sure that we win this engage. If it comes to it. Nope. Okay, nice. All right. I want to back out here. All right. So yeah, your E, you want to be very delicate with the use of this ability. What I mean with this is that if you're starting to use your E, you have to know a certain amount of things. First of all, you gotta realize that once you use it, you are out of, like, you don't have any getaways. So it's very important that you're mindful around using it. This means that against what I'm playing against down here, I need to know that Seraphine doesn't have her ult. Or I want to, because if she has her ult, then I need my E. I need my E to be able to dodge it or jump to the side as she uses her ability if I'm fast enough. If I know she doesn't have ult or they misstep, then of course I can still go for something, but just know that you have to kind of keep track of the enemy's abilities and what they can use and what you actually need your ability for. The same goes if you don't know where the jungler is, then most likely you shouldn't be going for an E play at all, because this will put you in a scenario where you're very vulnerable to the enemy jungler. For the next like 15-20 seconds or 20 seconds in low level, especially, then you are like, you have no mobility. So if you do this play, then you have to go back and play very defensively, very fast, or at least you have to be somewhat close to your turret. So think about this usage. In terms of using your E, then the way we want to do damage with it, since it deals damage to whatever is closest, then there's one trick with it. And that is, if you have your W onto a target, then your E actually prioritizes its damage onto the target that has the W applied to it, regardless of whether or not it is the closest target. And this is where it really becomes good, because this means that in order to deal damage with our E, we don't have to go for the close, like we don't have to jump into melee range, which let's say we're playing against like a Samira. Samira is not like, if we jump on top of Samira, then Samira, because of her passive, actually deals more damage. God dang it, they actually surrender. Okay, let me just explain the rest. So yeah, that's pretty important that you do realize this when doing it. That using your E is quite important in terms of like the jump. Like you can jump right on top of a target. If you do this, you're really vulnerable. But if you probably do a W, you can position anywhere pretty much within an attack range, and your E will still deal damage to the target that has the Essence Flux, and the Essence Flux will actually proc and deal the damage from your E, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, in the early game, that's pretty much how you play that. Your ult, just one thing, your ult, I can really strongly recommend you to use this one when you're out of vision, when your enemies cannot see you. And the reason for this is that if you do this, then it's very hard to predict Ezreal's ult then, and it's very hard to move out of the way. But if you cast it where they have vision or where they can see you, it's extremely easy to dodge because there's a cast time, there's this long animation, so it's very easy for them to know, okay, I need to flash in a moment, or I need to use my dash. So really do think about this. Try every time, if you see they're low, they're like 300 HP in lane or somewhere, move into a bush, fire off your ult from in there, and they won't see it coming. It's a really small and really niche thing, but it's so important to always do. In terms of the mid game, all you want to do is go into the mid lane. You want your mid laner to rotate to one of the side lanes, and then you want to be sitting in there so you're close to the Baron and to the Drake. Then you want to actually just play around your team. That's the thing with Ezreal. He is a team fighter. He is a poker. He is not good in 1v1s. Like, he can win some, but this is, you never want to try and seek 1v1s in general unless you're really far ahead. So all you want to do is play around your team, stick in the mid lane, try and rotate with your team. Make sure you're present for objectives. This is what Ezreal is really good at. Prior to pushing objectives like tower, you want to try and poke them at range, just sitting there firing off your Q, get them low on HP so your team can siege. That's really all there is to do on Ezreal. In terms of the overall team fighting strategy, it's quite simple. You want to sit back behind your entire team. You want to play the back line, go for the closest target, never go for anything else unless it's absolutely necessary. Then you want to go for the closest target. You want to hold on to your E such that when they try to dive you, you can E backwards, or you can E over wall to the side. You want to be slippery. Your E in team fighting is generally speaking not a damage ability. You don't want to be thinking of it as a damage ability. You need to cast it as a mobility. So you need to use it to get over a wall, to get away from somebody who's diving you or trying to get to you, and then keep pumping out your damage. It can be really good to use your ult prior to the fight starting, if you can hit, or just as the fight initiating. Then you can use your ult right that moment, see if you can hit as many targets as possible with it. It can actually win you the whole team fight because it can take off like 1/3 to half of the HP of most of the enemy team if you hit it right. Otherwise, you're probably not going to be using it in the fight unless you can see several targets being on top of each other, which allows you to AoE them with it. So yeah, that's kind of the strategy on Ezreal. It's not too complicated. Where the Ezreal strategies really come into play is actually learning the mechanics of him and learning how to really maneuver around and using his abilities to the best. One thing I do want to like point out, and this is something I see a lot on Ezreal players, is that they only cast their spells. It is very important that you fit in auto attacks as well, because Ezreal's auto attacks deal a lot, especially since you're going for something like a Sheen in basically all of his builds, which means that your basic attacks do get this increased damage. So yeah, it's very important. Anyway, I do hope you guys enjoyed this video, even though I'm really sad that they surrendered. I feel like we covered a lot of the stuff, and for that reason, I'm going to post it anyway. I might do an updated one sometime in the future, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you found it helpful. If you did by any means, then make sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe down below. And lastly, if you want to hang out with me live, go to twitch.tv/MipZ_live. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. As always, stay awesome, have fun, and take it easy, guys.